Hi, I'm Susan Blaine, and welcome to the Dare to Be Vulnerable project. We are a social impact, not-for-profit driven project that's focused on engaging conversation around our mental health, speaking up, breaking the silence, and busting the stigma. Today's conversation is a collaboration of the Youth Services Bureau and their series, Your Mind Matters, with Bell Let's Talk. I don't think a lot of people know about the incredible work that the Youth Services Bureau does for this city here in Ottawa. They've been around for 62 years and they've been serving youth and families. They are the most comprehensive non-profit agency in the city, and they have a ton of programs and services. They have 350 caring professionals that work in 20 different locations around Ottawa. It's just incredible the work that they do, and we will have a list of those services for you at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that, for you to tap into. What I love about these conversations is the intent. The intent is to help guide those of us that are struggling with our mental health. And what I've discovered is there is no quick fix to optimal mental well-being. There's no easy button, there's no one-size-fits-all. Each of us is responsible for creating our own path to a life of purpose and meaning, and I think that's what we really all crave as human beings. And what I've learned through my own mental health struggles and continue to learn is that we're in this together and we need each other, and asking for help is the key, is the first step to our healing journey. And without help, we won't get there. So if you take anything away from today's conversation, I hope you take away that asking for help is key. Today, we're here to have a conversation and talk about how parents and caregivers can help a youth who's struggling with their mental health through connection instead of correction. I love that. Connection rather than correction. So I'm here with Marco, who's been a mental health counselor for YSV for 16 years. Thank you so much for being here, Marco. I really appreciate you and the work that you do. It must be very meaningful to you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, 16 years of this kind of commitment and work. You get a lot of stories. You get the privilege and honor of hearing those stories.
Yes. And I understand that storytelling is a really big part of your practice.
Yes, it is. Indeed it is, yeah. I mean, it comes obviously from narrative therapy, but it's
Tell us
more...
a little bit about that.
Yeah, well,
That's
storytelling is a big part of allowing a person to come into a room and just share a part of themselves without feeling problematic, without feeling that they don't matter, without feeling that anything they have to say doesn't have meaning or purpose. So in a story, you get them the opportunity to share that. Their dominant stories, stories of struggle, and their preferred stories, stories of resiliency and what got them through it.
The hero's journey.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, at the youth walk-in clinic, I understand parents and caregivers sometimes come in on their own.
Yes. Yeah.
What are they primarily looking for when they come in?
Oh, I think what they're primarily looking for is some answers to how to get through, how to get through that door that won't open when the child's stuck. And they're coming in hurt, they're coming in vulnerable.
Yeah.
So we have to be ready to and prepared to hear their stories too.
And they've taken the first step, right?
Yes.
Coming in and asking for help. And it takes a village, right?
Oh, for sure. Being a parent myself, I can only imagine what it takes to go into that room, into that space, and ask Youth Services Bureau to ask for help for themselves as parents.
It takes courage.
Yes, it does. It's extreme courage.
I love that. And I've also heard, I applaud those parents that come in on
Yes.
their own, because they're taking that first step, and it takes a village. And I've often heard, because they're struggling too, right?
Yes, of course.
And with their mental health too. I mean, they just want the best for their child. And I've heard before that learning is the key to mental well-being. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Learning, it surprises me and amazes me, 16 years again. Every time a parent comes in, they don't come in with the knowledge we think they have. It's not like a book given to them.
There's no playbook, right?
No, there's no playbook, and everything is so happening so rapidly, so quickly in their home.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're sponges, and they want to come in and learn. But I think what's more important, aside from the learning, is getting to their vulnerable side and them being able to come in and just share themselves without having to fear that you'll judge them or fear that they've been a bad parent. Shame and guilt is a big part, takes a big toll on them.
Yes.
So we have to get through that before we can get to the learning. And so we have to make that space for them to have.
Oh, that's so important. What are some of the things that you found that work really well? That's one of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of them is giving them that safe space. I really firmly believe in a simple concept from narrative therapy. A person's a person and a problem's a problem.
That they're separate?
Yes, that they're separate.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it includes parents too.
Yeah, of course.
And the silos that problems create between the child and the parent are just enormous.
Yeah.
And so the shame and the blame and the guilt. So talking about that, giving them an opportunity to share that part of themselves is very helpful. And
It's powerful.
Yeah. I think one of the most powerful questions you can ask as a therapist in helping a parent out is, what was your hopes and dreams when you were holding them at birth?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Bringing them back to that.
Correct.
So taking them out of the struggle and the problems and that pain back to a time of joy and hope.
Yeah, and what they had set out to do.
Yeah.
And maybe they felt 15 years later, 13 years later, they haven't accomplished that. And who did they tell? Who did they share that with?
Wow.
So I'm honored to have be able to receive that and to be careful with that information and to give them the respect and support in that space as we do with their child.
And you really help guide them, right?
Yeah.
That's the key. Tell me about the acronym PACE.
Oh, yeah.
Playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. That
Yes.
sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's from DDP, Didactic Development Psychotherapy. PACE allows a parent to connect with their child. So P, playful. So how do you get playful with an adolescent?
Yeah, tell me, how do you?
How do you? I think you go into their spaces and get an understanding, but to get to playfulness, you have to get to acceptance and C, curiosity. You have to be curious about their likes and
Yes.
dislikes, and you have to be curious enough to spend that time with them. Another concept that goes into PACE is sitting in the muck.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. I've used that term.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to sit in the muck, right?
Correct. You got to sit there, and sometimes playfulness can just mean sitting there by their bedside and not saying anything. I think silence is a difficult thing for parents.
Yes, because they want to fix it,
Correct. Yeah.
right?
I always use
Correct. That's why I
Yes.
love you're saying. What you're
Yeah.
saying is connection rather
overcorrection.
correction.
And it's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough when you're seeing your child struggle. And every struggle they're falling into is a struggle of that you can easily correct and you can easily shift and you can easily help them through it. But they don't want that. They want you to connect with them and
Yeah.
understand and accept their underlying feelings, what they're struggling with. I always give the analogy of a child, if you go to the play park, a child goes down a slide and they hurt their knee. So what's the first thing a parent does when
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
They hug them, they blow on the knee, they say it's going to go away, it's going to go away. But maybe all the child wants is to cry,
Just to be held.
just to be held, to be comforted. So that's the connection part. And that's when empathy comes in. And that's a big part of PACE.
Would you say that parents that are trying to help their children, that's one of the best tools? Or give me some of the sort of the best tools.
I think it's
Trying to
all,
help them.
Yeah, it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
You put PACE. So oftentimes I find myself in conversation with parents, we talk about being paceful, having a pace to it. It's not all in and just be curious for one day and think that you're going to get a result.
Patience, which
yes.
also starts with a P. I love that. Pace, because I don't think that's something that we as a default go to or think about, right?
Correct.
Especially when we're struggling, because there's a lot of anxiety and fear and worry.
Yeah, and so with PACE comes other concepts like repair must first come from us. You can't, it's hard for a child to come to you and repair what was broken. and say, you know, I'm sorry. So it must always come first from that parent. And we have to help parents get to there, but sometimes what gets in the way is what we call blocked care. They just blocked. They're blocked, and then to care for that child, because they're stuck personally, they might feel that they're a part of that problem, that they contributed to the problem, that they did something or said something that was never unpacked.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
That's a lot to deal with.
Yes.
So it really is complex.
Yes, it is. And so when you're looking at repair, if we can get a parent into a position to go in first and take a step down and approach a child first.
Wow.
The other thing I add, it's not in DDP, but I add, expect your house to be burnt. You know,
Expect the worst?
Yes, expect the worst. And expect that you're going to get hurt. You know, your child can be telling you all this time, all these things, and in the back of your mind, man, they're lying to me. I can't believe they're telling me these things. I know better than that. I know what they're doing, and yet the lie keeps coming. Well, if you don't do repair and you don't connect and you're busy correcting that, then you missed that opportunity for that door
and
to
you're
get
just
open.
locked in a cycle,
Yes.
right? And that cycle isn't moving anything
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, and if you go back to narrative storytelling, well, now the problems really got them hooked up. So, you know, now the problem's even isolating them even more, because now they can't even talk to their loved ones and challenge some notions and ideas created by the problem, that they're no good. I hear a lot these days that kids are saying that, am I important? Am I interesting? And do I have something to offer? And you know, the hard part of my work is when we can't break that silo and the parent is in the lobby and the child's in your office and there's no consent to bring in the parent.
Because there's not a willingness?
It's not a willingness. I think they're just stuck in that problem.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is circle back through the storytelling, get them to preferred places where loved ones, hearing them is of importance.
Yes.
So I talk a lot about being heard.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and the notion, idea of permission.
Yes.
Permission to give your story, to share your story. Permission to tell the world your hurts and your pains. And then preparing parents to hear it in a peaceful way.
I love that. And with my Dare to Be Vulnerable project, we say we go first,
Yes.
right? So I share my story. I've had about 150 conversations since I started the project, and I share my story first.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, Marco, what
Yes, it is.
happens. Like you use the word permission. I say it's almost something magical
Yes.
happens. Because you're witnessing courage.
Correct.
You're witnessing the power of vulnerability, and somewhere in that gives you the courage to step into your own story. So I love the fact that storytelling is the foundation of your practice.
Yes.
And hearing how powerful it is.
Yeah, and you know, most of the time when we work through storytelling, I use this charter of storytelling rights. Like you have some rights before we start unpacking your story. Like that we're going to look at you as a problem being a problem, person being a person. That the context, your experience, that you've experienced is your own. It's not to be compared to others.
Oh, that's so important because there's a lot of that going on,
Yes.
right, in the world.
Yes, and also that you're not a passive recipient of suffering. You have responded, and we're just needing to find that response and build you up on your strengths and skills. And then the last article of that charter is that what you contribute in here may make a difference to others moving forward.
Oh, yes.
So you can imagine 16 years of these storytelling has been so helpful to me. I've been honored to hear these stories
Yeah.
because it's helped others move along the way.
Well, just coming back to the question that you sometimes hear from the youth is, do I matter?
Yes.
Do I have, it's about purpose and meaning in life. And just what you shared right now
Yeah.
is, their story matters.
Correct.
Is it will have an impact on somebody else.
Yeah, and back to your point about learning, what we need to learn is that gets lost in translation by the problem. They feel like it matters, and then maybe a few days later, it's all forgotten. And that's what happens with parents and children. These deep conversations get lost and forgotten. Parents get frustrated. They thought they did enough. they're looking for a result. We have to stick to the process.
Yes.
It's a process and a journey with your child.
Yeah, never ending journey.
Never ending.
I have a 32-year-old daughter. It's never ending.
That's wonderful.
This is awesome, Marco.
Yeah.
I thank you so much. I've really learned a lot in this short conversation, and I so appreciate the work that you do.
Yeah.
We need more people like you in the world.
Well,
Marco.
thank you. Wow.
We really
appreciate
do.
that.
We really do.
Thank
and
you.
You know, to think that there's 350 people that work, you know, in Youth Services Bureau focused on youth at risk and their families is amazing. You know, a lot of people in this city realize that.
Yeah.
The resources and the tools that we have.
Yeah.
So thank you for being a part of that.
Not a problem. No.
Well, that's a wrap for now. We hope that you heard something here today that was helpful, because that's really the key in these conversations, is that we're sharing, and that something that you've heard today motivates you, inspires you to reach out and ask for help. Because remember what we said, asking for help is the key. It's the essential ingredient. Tap into your superpowers. And as I mentioned earlier, we will have a list of resources and programs that the Youth Services Bureau offers and that you can tap into and reach out. And we also invite you to follow the Dare to Be Vulnerable project, and we'll bring you more conversations around our mental health. So until the next time, remember, ask for help. Your mind matters. Keep the faith, and we believe in you. Bye for now.